Friday, the 17th, a new executive order. And so I do have that printed. I can answer any specific questions related to that. But prior to getting started, I would like to hear from the supervisor related to any concerns she may have. And then PJ, we haven't had an update from the county related to the sales tax and any other implications from the response to COVID. So after the supervisor speaks, if you can give us just an update on where the county stands and how we can be more helpful in buying local so we can continue to fill offers.
Will do.
Great. So yeah, I would like more information on the bar requirement. I kept up with it a little bit. We do have some locations here in New Lebanon who feel they are going to be negatively affected by this new requirement, seeing as they're already struggling to kind of make ends meet as it is. And I do understand that the necessity for it came, from events that were occurring in New York City. And obviously there wasn't a differentiation in the executive order. It seems to be statewide, even in towns like New Lebanon, where there weren't large gatherings at bars. So I thought that the quote unquote Cuomo chips, oh, Jeff left the meeting. I'll wait to ask my question because I think he might be the only one that knows how to answer it. Can you please turn that down? Hey, Jeff. Jeff, are you back on?
Jeff, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, hey, Jeff. Sorry, I stopped when I saw you left because I think you might be the only one that can answer my question. So long story short, my question is, then that a bar must follow in order to allow patrons to drink. Do they have to be seated at a table? I think you mentioned something about a requirement for a certain amount of food ordered. Can you give a brief summation of that?
Yes, pursuant to the executive order, it says purchase of food items which are consistent with food availability requirements of a license under the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law shall mean that each patron is in a seated party, has an item of food, must be purchased at the same time the purchase of an initial alcoholic beverage. As relates to shareable food that may be purchased, so long as they will sufficiently serve the number of people in the party, and each item will individually meet the food standard below. The standard below includes sandwiches, soup, or other such foods, whether fresh, processed, pre-cooked, or frozen, and or food items to complement the tastings of alcoholic beverages, which shall mean diversified selection of food as ordinarily consumed without the use of tableware and can be conveniently consumed, including but not limited to cheese, fruits, vegetables, chocolates, bread. For on-premises retailers with a food availability requirement, including restaurants and taverns, that includes sandwiches, soups, and other food, whether fresh, processed, or pre-cooked or frozen. And I can forward this executive summary to you, Madam Supervisor. Did that help?
That would be great, thank you. Yeah, and so am I understanding correctly that if a bar is a bar without food, they can no longer be open?
They can no longer seat people inside.
Okay, so to go orders only?
They can still do curbside and to go, yes.
Okay. All right, great. I did read some things about how that was negatively going to affect some of the wineries and wine tasting. I don't have any here in New Lebanon, so I can't speak to that, but I think that there may be some consequences that are unintended for places like a winery doing wine tasting. But I will pass on, if you can email me that, I'll pass it on to the couple bar owners in town that we're asking. Thank you.
And we do have a question into the Craft Beverage Makers Association related to breweries and wineries related to the tasting varieties for their places, because again, I think there will be some kind of negative impact to people coming, because we encourage people to consume food when they consume alcohol.
Okay, great. And you'll follow up with us when you get that answer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. We do have a new brewery here in New Lebanon, so that's pretty exciting. Just opening up during all of this COVID, so I'll pass that along to him. I guess from a town perspective, the only other thing that we're having issues with is the lack of clarity as far as enforcement. You know, everyone seems to be passing the buck when there is concerns raised by residents about some businesses in town not in compliance and possibly putting public health and safety at risk. And everyone seems to pass the buck. I get from the state that it's on the county sheriff. I get from the county sheriff that it's on the town. And, you know, I don't expect this committee to do anything there, but I think that it's important that there's clarity as far as, you know, where the enforcement capability falls. But I don't know that that's a conversation for this committee. So other than that, you know, we, as many towns, I think, have local businesses that are really struggling. You know, it's a balance between safety and being able to reopen, a lot of extra costs associated with ensuring that the proper protocol is in place to safely open, and then also having customers that aren't fully feeling safe, maybe going back out to restaurants and other places. And so it's kind of a catch-22 for a lot of our businesses, especially our food service businesses, where they're wanting to open and then needing a certain amount of clientele to make sure that they can afford to do so. And right now, I think it's quite an uphill battle. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Madam Supervisor. My understanding that, and I realize this is a conversation for the sheriff and the chairman and others above my pay grade related to local enforcement of the existing requirements. But I would hope that it would happen more locally than to call in the cavalry speak. One, that equates to negative publicity for our county. Two, it causes a lot of confusion, and it also allows for a lot of people to tattletale. And so I'm hoping that it comes from the top. I mean, from the local communities, as opposed to being enforced from Albany.
Yeah, well, and part of the issue is that the town hasn't been given a lot of enforcement power. And while we're happy to have conversations, if you have a business that just says, no, we understand the requirements, but we're not following it, the town doesn't have much in the way of teeth. But of course, everyone calls me as the town, hey, why is this business, being allowed to do these things? And, the short answer is they're not being allowed to do it. But, it's a difficult question when people are coming to the town, why aren't you doing more? But we don't have the power to do more. And so if it can get, that's what I'm trying to get out there, is that yes, you go to your town thinking your town should be able to prevent or dissuade these types of activities, but the town really doesn't have much authority in those ways. So it's a bit of a sticky wicket. I agree with you. We don't want the negative publicity. But in the instance in the business I'm talking about, the state was really the only one with the teeth to do anything to be able to possibly prevent it. So it's just a tough situation for towns to be in. But we'll continue to do our best, in an ideal situation. And of course, with the business I'm referring to, we of course started with conversations just directly from myself and our CEO to the business owner saying, hey, let's work together. Let's make sure that things are safe. But that's not everybody's take. And unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of, grumblings about unconstitutionality of the executive orders and the virus being a hoax. And so those feed into this whole idea of, we're just going to do what we want. And, we'll deal with it day to day, but it's definitely a challenge from a town perspective that I'm running into.
Mhm. Well, thank you for that and your insights on this. And we'll work very hard to get you some information on that aspect as well, as soon as we know something. At this time, if you don't have anything else, Madam Supervisor, I'd like to give PJ Keeler, the County Treasurer, an opportunity to talk to us about where we are in terms of sales tax, how we can be more influential in spurring more sales tax dollars into our county, and anything else you might have, PJ.
Sure, I'd be glad to, Jeff. I just want to add a little comment to, we have a neighbor that went to a local distillery over the weekend, and how they handled the food item was the fact that when they ordered a drink, they handed them a baggie full of peanuts that was individually wrapped. So that satisfied the food requirement, okay, and obviously enhanced the drinking. So anyway, that's how they got around it, just an FYI. Fast forward here to the county level, we're still trying to make wine out of water. I expect that process will continue for quite some time. We had projected in the beginning of this pandemic, and when we got into it a little bit, that the minimal total financial economic impact would be, on the less severe end, would be 12 million, and our high end would be 20 million. So out of the 12 million, after the first 3 months of this pandemic, we are already at a $6 million impact. So we are struggling mostly with receivables, especially from the state. State has not reimbursed for our Department of Social Services for the last 3 months. And some of the state's reimbursement that they've issued to, like the Office of Mental Health, has been cut by 30%. So we're experiencing those. We had projected first 17%, then we bumped it up to 20%. It looks like at the moment, some of the agencies are seeing reductions of 30%. Our sales tax right now, year to date, we're down a little over 5%. We had a little bump in June, so there is maybe some good foresight ahead. Our sales tax in June was up about $300,000 over a year ago. Now, exactly the reason for that, there are many theories out there, nothing confirmed, but some of the vendors that did not pay in March were given a grace period to pay in June, so that may have affected it somehow. But like I said, we're down about 5%. Our projections are the lower, lesser severe impact would be a 9% reduction, and the higher percentage would be a 22% reduction. Now that's till the end of this year. So I'm kind of confident, and I'm kind of hoping that we end up towards the 9%. We'd like to be even, no question, but hopefully the 9% will help. Like I said, our total economic impact takes into account our accounts receivable as well. So our delinquent taxes have gone up. The tax collectors returned delinquent taxes to us in the beginning of June for the taxes that were sent out in January. Those tax receivables are up about $1 million over a year ago. We have a lot of ways and means to try to address this, but I think the impact is obviously many people don't have the money to pay their taxes. So we're going to see this lasting impact, my personal opinion, moving forward here for the next foreseeable future. So those are the issues that we're dealing with at the present. We have identified at the county level about $10 million in savings that we could produce, which would include using our tax stabilization account, money we had set aside for these types of instances, of about $2.8 million. We've stopped all the capital projects that were not already in the works. The department heads have been very, very helpful in reducing their budgets as well. And we seem to be on track towards that 10 million in savings and fund balance reserve to use. So if we're at 6 now, hopefully we'll kind of tail off here, 9 or 10. But again, who knows? Depends on where this is going to go. Is it going to get worse? We're going to backtrack, or we're going to continue to move forward. So those are the unknowns that this committee can't answer, and neither can PJ Keeler. So hope that's an update. Jeff, if you have any questions, I'm certainly here.
Thank you, PJ, for that update. I think many of us on this committee, per se, have been just wondering where the county has been. I know that through a partnership between the Chamber and Tourism, we've been promoting to shop local to support the county tax rolls, and we're planning to continue that throughout the rest of the year, from what I understand. And we're also exploring some regional partnerships with like Saratoga region to encourage those in our region for reopening to visit our area. So I've been working with Todd Smeekis, the president and CEO of the Saratoga Chamber, on some reciprocal trade items to be able to offer people from this area to come down and visit our beverage trails, our beautiful scenery, and likewise those who are going up, who are people I do know a lot have gone up to the lakes, Lake George, Lake Placid, and others to consider Saratoga as a trading partner with us. That's something we hadn't really explored before, but we think now that the nature of travel has changed, that the people will probably want to just stay closer to home when they're looking to vacation a little bit. So, so we've been continuing to work on that. When I spoke to Mike earlier today, we're still committed to chairing this committee. We went from probably about 70 participants in the first meeting down to about 6, but we still think there's a need for this kind of interaction, and definitely a need for the Columbia Comeback website as a resource guide for businesses who are interested in following the phases and keeping track with our of the different requirements as handed down by Albany. So we may not be meeting as frequently, but we will be having, the website will still stay open and live, and we may just be issuing a weekly newsletter, but we haven't determined that at this particular time. But we want to continue to be a service to the business community here in Columbia County and be as supportive as we can. At this time, is there anyone else on the line who may have an announcement that is of benefit to this group, or have any questions related to the topic?
Jeff,
Yes.
It's Martha Lane. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Martha. Yes.
I just wanted to remind everyone on this call that Columbia Economic Development is still actively making small business loans, and we have more money to lend. I would really appreciate it if people would get out the word to businesses in their communities. You can go on our website, columbiaedc.com, to read about our rapid recovery loans and all of our loan products. But we do have money to lend. I know that a lot of business owners have spent their PPP money, and there is still a need for additional funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, for that. We continue to work closely with CDC and their magnificent team, Martha, Carol, Ed, and Lisa, and all of those folks over there. Again, the partnership with tourism. If you know of any businesses like Madam Supervisor, the new brewery that's opening in your area, if they would like some resources through the chamber, or matter of fact, this is a good time for them to contact the tourism department, because they're doing a publication about our sipping and tastings in the area. So there'll be a good time for them to connect with county tourism related to their offerings. Again, we want to be a benefit to all the businesses here in Columbia County. And we do appreciate the support we've gotten from the board of supervisors, especially the supervisors who participated on each of these calls. And we want to give special thanks to the chairman for convening this group. And again, we'll send an email out about the iteration of our next meetings, if we're going to continue to meet via Zoom or get what platform we're on right now, Google. But we will continue to do this as we move forward, as we await the governor's decision for the reopening of our school districts, which is probably the thing that people are most interested in at this particular time, as we move forward in this COVID pandemic. Are there any other questions, concerns, good news? Glad to hear about it right now. Well, seeing and hearing none, I just want everyone to have a wonderful day. Remember to still take time out to smell the flowers and take in some of the sun. Before we know it, it'll be December, and we want some of that vitamin D. So make sure you get out a little bit and socially distance, and please wear a face covering.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, along those lines, I would say the good news is, I was just going to say along those lines, the good news is it's beautiful outside. We live in a beautiful area. We are in an area where we can still go outside and enjoy nature while socially distancing. And we've got amazing people involved in our county, such as everyone on this call, doing the best that we can with the difficult situation. So that's the good news in my world.
And maybe we should all go to New Lebanon and have a beer.
Roaring 20s Brewery. I myself,
okay.
because I'm gluten allergic or intolerant, celiac, but I hear the beer is delicious. So they've got a nice outdoor space where you can be at your own picnic table with the group you came with. And I've heard they have delicious beer. So come check them out, please.
All right.
Will do.
Will do.
Everyone, have a great day.
Thank you.
See you.